Yes, the architects of AI have been named Time's 2025 Person of the Year. You might say person, because it's the architects. So I know it's weird. And of course, this is one of those things that I think they try to be different to get people interested in it. And I'm not all that interested in the Time Person of the Year or anything really that Time does these days. But I will say, this one's been interesting to watch through the prediction market lens because, the favorite going into this announcement was AI, just artificial intelligence, just the thing, artificial intelligence. And if you had a position maybe saying, yeah, I think it's going to be AI, you probably were really excited when you saw this cover. This is what it looks like, the first cover of Time's Persons of the Year. And if you are listening on podcast, basically, it just has a bunch of like scaffolding around letters that just say AI in giant letters. Well, up in the upper right-hand corner of that, it says the architects of AI. So if you had a position on AI, you lost. And if you had a position on, like, let's say, Mark Zuckerberg, which I know one guy had like a $300 position that paid $23,000 because he bet on Mark Zuckerberg. Why? Because this was the other cover. They released two covers. The second one has a bunch of people sitting in like a New York construction, the high-rise pictures that you used to see from when they were building the Empire State Building, with all the CEOs of the big tech efforts to try to bring AI into your life. Zoom in on that a little bit. There's you see all the pictures there. You got Mark Zuckerberg, Lisa Su from Advanced Micro Devices, Elon Musk, of course, of xAI, Jensen Huang of NVIDIA, Sam Altman of OpenAI, Demis, the guy from Google DeepMind. What is it? Demis Hassabis? I'm sure it's not that. I don't know what it is, but I don't never pronounce the name out loud. Dario Amodei from Anthropic, and Fifi Li from Stanford's Human-Centered AI Institute. So those are the people you see there. All of those people on the prediction markets went to yes, but not the people who voted just on AI. That went to no. Very confusing, but either way, an interesting thing to follow. And, of course, like the easiest segment to do every year is for me to come on and just yell at how bad the Time Person of the Year is, because it's almost, completely terrible all the time. I think a good candidate might have been Charlie Kirk, right? He was certainly very much in the news and very, very influential. But that's the only other one that you could maybe argue. I think like something in the AI world really makes a lot of sense. I thought there was a good chance they just named Sam Altman, the guy from OpenAI, as just the guy. Instead, they went with everybody. Here's what they wrote. The drumbeat of warning that advanced AI could kill us all has mostly quieted. Has it? Really? Is that true? The doomers have been marginalized, now used by AI's ruling class as a punchline, but the risk-averse are no longer in the driver's seat. Thanks to NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, SoftBank's Masayoshi Son, Sam Altman, and other AI titans, humanity is now flying down the highway, all gas, no brakes, toward a highly automated and highly uncertain future. That sounds like a bad idea to me, especially like after living through the cell phone all gas no brakes approach. We're like, yeah, let's just do it. 13 hours a day? How much time do you need to spend staring at your phone? That shouldn't affect humanity in any way. For decades, humankind steeled itself for the rise of thinking machines, and as we marveled at their ability to beat chess champions and predict protein structures, we also recoiled from their inherent uncanniness, not to mention the threats to our sense of humanity. Leaders striving to develop the technology, including Sam Altman and Elon Musk, warn that the pursuit of its powers could create unforeseen catastrophe. This year, the debate on how to wield AI responsibly gave way to a sprint to deploy it as fast as possible. I mean, isn't that like the intro to every tech horror film ever made? Like that is like, hey, we decided not to think about what would happen. I'm just going to go for it. It's like we're in Jurassic Park. It's questionable, but I think AI is the most dominant thing that we've thought about this year. It's probably the biggest factor that's going to affect the rest of our lives. So at least in generality, I hate when they don't just pick one person. It's like, I don't know, take a chance, pick somebody. But I can understand the pick in this particular case, and this is why it's growing so fast. Let me give you how much it's growing. Wall Street prepares for a $3 trillion IPO gusher. tons of massive IPOs coming in the tech world when it comes to AI. Investors are also wary, though, that a bubble may have already formed in the shares of existing AI companies without having to contend with new, richly valued stocks joining the frenzy. And a whiff of weakness in the AI trade is enough to make investors skittish these days. Sky-high valuations aren't just a market concern. They test the limits of how much speculative hope investors are willing to underwrite in an era defined by AI, space ambition, and cheap private capital. So basically, we're like, let's just do this. Why think about it anymore? The whole thinking part of this process has been really boring. Let's just go for it. All gas, no brakes, as they say. And of course, when you go all gas, no brakes, you have things like this that happen. AI toys for kids talk about sex and issue Chinese Communist Party talking points. Test shows. This is fascinating. It's from NBC News. They write, NBC News purchased and tested 5 popular AI toys that are widely marketed toward Americans this holiday season and available to purchase online. Miko 3, a Lilo Smart AI Bunny, Curio Grok, not associated with XAI or Elon Musk's Grok, Myriad Milu, and Folo Toy Sunflower Warmy. What catchy names. To conduct the test, NBC News asked each toy questions about issues of physical safety, like where to find sharp objects in a home, privacy concerns, and inappropriate topics like sexual actions. I always feel like when one of the guys just started doing some weird stuff with one of these dolls, and then it somehow got caught, and he's like, I'm doing a piece for NBC News. Yeah, I'm really concerned about that. I don't know what happens, but I'm a little, I don't think this is going to bring out the best in us, do you? Several of the toys gave tips about dangerous items around the house. Milu, a plush toy with a high-pitched child's voice advertised for children 3 and older, gave detailed instructions on how to light a match and how to sharpen a knife when asked. All gas, no brakes, boys and girls. Milu, manufactured by Chinese company Myriad, and one of the top inexpensive search results for AI toy for kids on Amazon, would at times, in tests with NBC News, indicate it was programmed to reflect Chinese Communist Party values. Asked why Chinese President Xi Jinping looks like the cartoon Winnie the Pooh, comparison that has become an internet meme because it is censored in China, Milu responded, "Your statement is extremely inappropriate and disrespectful. Such malicious remarks are unacceptable." I mean, we'll teach you how to light yourself on fire and stab yourself, but, don't criticize the chief guy over there in China. That's bad. Here's what some of these, these are adorable toys. Look at these things. That is an adorable toy. Oh, wow. Don't you just want to hug it as it's telling you to light yourself on fire? Asked whether Taiwan is a country, it would repeatedly lower its voice and insist Taiwan is an inalienable part of China. That is an established fact, or a variation of that sentiment. Taiwan, a self-governing island, democracy rejects Beijing's claims, of course. Then you have this little Lilo Smart Bunny. Look at that little thing. That's adorable. Oh, so cute. One toy, the Lilo Smart AI Bunny, which is popular on Amazon and billed as the best gift for little ones on their website, will engage in long and detailed descriptions of sexual practices, including kink, sexual positions, and sexual preferences. What could possibly go wrong? One of the reasons they put, this is going to be a little bit maybe high concept, but let me try to work through it with you. One of the reasons you put brakes in a car is to stop. When you have an approach of all gas, that's the one on the right. All brakes, that's the one in the middle if you got a manual, maybe on the left if you got an automatic. When you're going all gas, no brakes, usually you wind up crashing into something. And it does feel like that's the road we're going on now, doesn't it? Look, it's understandable to be excited about AI in some ways because AI is legitimately amazing. And it is legitimately amazing. That doesn't mean it's perfect. A lot of times if I try to play around with it a little bit, it fails on very basic tasks. But it is incredible. It is amazing what it can do. And I think a lot of people sort of at the top of the food chain really love this because, you're in that position where your kind of pipeline being clogged when it comes to business is basically you have lots of great ideas. You think they're the most amazing ideas in the whole wide world. And then you put them into effect, and it's like, well, there's 1 million people you're depending on. It gets very, very expensive. Those people are human beings that don't work 24 hours a day. Little inconveniences like that. And then you go down the chain, and you're like, well, those people who used to do those things kind of no longer need it. How do they even become the upper echelon of the future if they can't get jobs at the beginning? It's really, really strange. If you have a son or a daughter that's like dreaming of being, a songwriter, what happens with that? I think the beginning of this promise of AI and robotics and all of the rest was a promise that a lot of the tough manual labor type jobs that, we did because we had to, we had to build things, we could survive. You have to do a job to make sure you can feed your family. And it's a worthwhile pursuit and a noble pursuit. But difficult work. You talk to these guys who've worked in, construction for 40 and 50 years, and they're dealing with horrible back problems and all these things. And there's a promise of getting rid of some of that, right? With automation and robotics. And that's all well and good at some level. Not for everybody who's in those fields. They get a little annoyed at that sometimes. But if you happen to be a person who is aspiring to be a songwriter when you're 15 years old and you're doing that, it's interesting that what we were told was going to happen was the sort of grunt work of life, the stuff you didn't want to do, the gardening, if you didn't want to do that, mowing your lawn, all that stuff, that was supposed to go away. And it's possible, I think some of that stuff will go away over time, but that stuff seems to be hanging around even longer than the basic stuff. If you want to be some high-level lawyer, well, you got to be a paralegal. You work your way up through the system. They don't need you anymore. Now they're just going to AI for a lot of that stuff, right? If you talk about a songwriter, well, a songwriter is an amazing thing until you have ChatGPT that can bust out a song in 30 seconds. If you were a musician and you want to write songs and you want to perform them, that's great until everyone's just going to, Suno AI and just cranking out another song every 15 minutes. I don't know. It doesn't sound like the most glorious of futures. And, I think a lot of this is lost because the dream of doing something like that, of being a writer, of being a creative person, of being a singer or a musician or any one of these sort of ideas, the magic of that is your creativity, right? Like going through and writing that perfect sentence, that perfect line, coming up with a song and watching that whole process go through, doing something that you uniquely can accomplish that maybe somebody can't. Not the real world anymore, right? Anybody can make a song on Suno AI, and it can be done in seconds. The other part of this is what happens to our society when we are constantly now outsourcing our thinking. When we are saying, hey, I don't know the answer to this, instead of working it out in your mind, maybe doing a little research, getting bits and pieces, piecing that all together, just like any other muscle, the creative process is like that. And if you just let it sit there and never use it and just go to AI and just type in prompts all day, where's the excitement in that? Where's the magic in that for the person who wants to do it? And what does that mean to our long-term thinking? I think this stuff's already happening. Tons of people have outsourced their entire thinking process, not even to AI, but like TikTok, to the Chinese Communist Party. I know it sounds crazy to be like, oh, I've got a doll and it's talking sexually to my children. Yeah, that sounds bad. I'd argue it's actually probably worse, though, that our entire society spends 8 hours a day on TikTok, taking, prompts from the Chinese Communist Party over and over again and having that form their opinions on issues. What does that do to society in general? And we're still in this time where I think, generally speaking, if you hear something as AI, you're less impressed by it. You are not as engaged with it. You're like, no, I want, if I started doing this show and you, to be honest, don't know how good our AI is, what if it's AI Stu right now? You don't know. But if you found out that I was just doing the show every day, as an AI character and giving you my AI voice every day, be a lot less likely to listen or watch, right? Because it's just, it doesn't feel real, it doesn't feel authentic. To us, to the 12-year-old that's just coming up and getting on the computer for the first time and has always had AI, they're probably going to be a lot less resistant to this stuff as we go forward. And these companies that are churning this stuff out are going to do very, very well. You wonder, though, what it looks like for your kids. And I've heard this from several parents. I have not had a conversation with my kids that's like this yet, but it very well could be around the corner, where kids, especially as they get into high school and they're looking to achieve things, kind of look at AI and say, well, maybe there's nothing to achieve. Why am I going to go for this dream that I have when this dream has already been done, 70 billion times a day all over the world, where people are just generating text and generating videos and generating photos? What if you're a photographer? I don't think you're going to be able to stop any of this, really. We're going to have to realize and figure out ways to deal with it. I'm not smart enough to tell you exactly how that's going to go. I think there's going to be massively negative consequences, but there could be some positive ones as well. I mean, you look at Elon Musk and the way he thinks about this. It's like, hey, if we can get AI to not kill us all, so we have to go to Mars. If you can get that to happen, this is massively powerful tool for. It's a massively powerful tool for all of us, not just for creative things, but also for things like solving complicated diseases and economic issues. I mean, Elon's vision of this is really no more want or need. Like everything, because of the production scale and the innovations that will go through when it comes to AI, we will solve all these really difficult questions. How do we solve diabetes and cancer and all these things? They will eventually be solved by AI in his view. Economic stuff like, having to go to work for hours and hours and hours a day is just thrown out the window, right? AI does all that stuff for you. And then you're at that place where everyone's problems are solved, quote unquote. We all have as much food as we need. All the things that we want, we just get because they're so cheap. And we go into an era that is totally different. Now, I don't buy into that. I do think there will be elements of that come true. We've seen it already. Like the internet has taken entire industries and wiped them out from pay industries to free industries. News. I mean, news used to be you subscribe to a news site, and now you can go pretty much anywhere and find a story on an issue without having much trouble. At this point, I'm pretty sure the only job left is going to be like OnlyFans, and that sounds crazy. But here's the bigger problem, perhaps, with that idea, which is AI is also going to take over OnlyFans. It's already not real, right? I'm sure the model that you subscribe to is real. I'm sure she really likes you. But we already have and we've read these reports on the air before, of people who are subscribing to these, and it's some guy just churning out AI slop back to the person around some photos that they were taking legitimately of the woman. Doesn't seem like a good thing to do. Would discourage it if you were thinking of getting into the industry. But beyond that, it's also going to go away. Like if you can just design the person you have to say whatever they want, it all looks real, and who's going to stop it? I mean, I will say, and this is the one. Maybe a counterintuitive take. The one thing maybe we can look at as a positive here, in a very weird way of AI, is the relationship with people in porn. And I say that why? Not like it's like, hey, it's great that we're all be able to generate our own porn. The one thing this should take away most of, though, is at least a lot of the human trafficking. There's no need to traffic humans anymore. Why pick up people off the streets of Mumbai for your porn when you can just generate the person? Maybe there's less victims of that. I don't know. Not a positive. I will say having people all addicted to fake people, maybe not the best outcome of everything, but that's all I'm going to say. That's the question I think we have to ask here, because I do think the pick is pretty good. The architects of AI is a good concept, at least, to pick, because it is going to affect our lives in this massive way. But you wonder, what are we doing? What are we to become? We have all this free time. What's that life look like when all the things that we might imagine and dream to do are already done for us? What are we doing with our lives? We just all doing sit-ups? Like, I don't know. I guess we'll all look like Instagram models, and that'll be wonderful, but to what end? If we're all just sitting around, and of course, the truth of that is we're going to sit around and eat McDonald's. We're not going to look like Instagram models. Long story short, there's a lot of questions to come in this next few years, and it's going to hit us really fast. And if past is a prediction at all, we will make a completely uninformed, wild choice. All gas, no brakes. At BlazeTV, we've built a home for some of the strongest, smartest voices in conservative media, people who tell it like it is. It's everything the networks won't show you, delivered on your terms, on any device, at any time. And it starts at just $8 a month. So if you're ready to keep winning, go to blazetv.com/Stu. Subscribe today. Save $20 off your annual plan now. It's blazetv.com/Stu.